Every single one of us on this planet is just trying to make it through another day, given the tools we have access to in order to keep surviving. But why only survive when you can thrive? The best practice one can use to their benefit is looking inward. How can you water yourself? There's no better feeling than self-awareness and the newfound confidence that comes as a result. A tool I've used to my benefit is understanding astrology. Your birth chart is a toolkit you can use to cheat code your way through life. Once you have a full understanding of yourself, the way you navigate through life will be much more of a breeze. Hello angels, welcome back to my channel, The Venetian Edit, where I, Brittany, teach you all the tips and tricks on how to elevate your self-love and confidence journey. In today's video, we'll be continuing the New Year Glow Up series. I'll be teaching you guys how to read a birth chart. So if you're not familiar with the elements of a birth chart and what makes up a birth chart, what astrology is, anything like that, go ahead and check out last week's video so you can get up to date on everything we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you've already done that, then we're good to go and we can dive straight into today's topic. First things first, you're going to have to access the software necessary for you to calculate your birth chart. Plenty of free websites out there, but the one that I think is both user-friendly and extremely informative is Astrology. It's completely free. Just go ahead and type in astro-seek.com on your web browser and it'll pop right up. Once you get into the website, go ahead and click Astrology Charts, then Birth Chart Report. It's going to take you to a section where you can insert all of your birth data. So that would be your birthday, your birth time, and then the location that you were born as well. Now, if you're not familiar with your birth time, there is a little box that you can check off that says unknown time. Just know that if you have an unknown time, you won't get any houses in your chart, but the rest of the data will still come up just fine. No worries, sister. You'll be taken to a screen that features this circle. All this is your birth chart, and your birth chart is just a photo of the sky at the exact time, place, and date that you were born. Now, let's begin by identifying the elements that we spoke about in last week's video. As a reminder, the elements are signs, planets, houses, and aspects. Now, if you look on the outermost circle, you have the 12 zodiac signs. On the neighboring ring, we have the planets as well as some asteroids and other important points in your chart. On this particular website, there's a key that features all of the planets with their accompanying symbols. Now, if you're doing this on a desktop, laptop, or an iPad, it'll come up directly next to it. But if you are on your iPhone, smartphone, whatever smaller screen device that you're on, you're just gonna have to scroll down a little bit and then it'll have the same key right there. Little numbers that are ranging from 1 to 12 on the next inner circle indicate all of the houses. Finally, these little blue and red lines in the center represent the aspects. The blue lines are the favorable aspects, which are trines and sextiles, and then we have the red lines that represent squares and oppositions. Conjunctions can also be represented using the different colored lines. However, in Astroseek, they simply just don't do that. It's not that the conjunctions don't exist, it's just not represented by a different color system as it is for the other aspects. Now that we have our vocab out of the way, let's get into chart interpretation. First things that you should look for are your big three placements. Your big three is comprised of your sun, moon, and your rising, also known as the ascendant. Your big three is important to know because this is basically who you really are at your core. On a chart like this, your rising is not going to come up as the word rising, it's going to come up as the word ascendant. So if you look between the numbers 1 and 12, right here on the left-hand side of the chart, you're going to see a black line that says ASC. That is your rising sign, your ascendant. In this particular example, we have the ascendant occurring at 0 degrees Sagittarius. We have your sun placement, which is at 29 degrees Virgo, up here in the 10th house. And then the moon sign is in 1 degree Taurus, occurring in the 5th house. Let's take this one step further. Before you say, oh my god girl, it's too much, you can handle it, I promise. With that rising or ascendant sign that we were just talking about, you can look up your chart ruler. Chart ruler is the planet that rules your ascendant. Knowing this placement is helpful because it provides further context on what planetary energy has been influencing your life. So in our example that we have here, we have a Sagittarius rising. Sagittarius's ruling planet is Jupiter. So we're going to look for Jupiter in this chart, and we see that we have Jupiter in Scorpio in the 12th house. Rulership is determined by the traditional planets, which is all of the planets ranging from the Sun all the way to Saturn. Since Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are considered modern discoveries, that means that they're not utilized in this specific technique. So if you have an Aquarius, Pisces, or Scorpio rising, you're going to use the traditional ruler of your rising sign. We'll have a cute little graphic here that's going to show you guys what your chart ruler is dependent on your rising sign. Now after you do that, you want to take note of the major angles of your chart to know what signs are governing these areas of your life. The major angles are comprised of your Ascendant, your IC, your Descendant, and your MC, also known as the Midheaven. This is just the cusps of the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. We already described what the Ascendant is, your rising sign. Your IC, or your 4th house cusp, is representative of your private and your home life, how you grew up. Next up, you have the Descendant, which rules over partnerships and the characteristics that you like in others. Then we have the MC, also known as the Midheaven, which is the 10th house and the highest point of your chart. Being that this is the highest point, this is what governs your public image in your career. In our example here, our 1st house begins in Sagittarius, 4th house cusp begins in Pisces, 7th house cusp begins in Gemini, and then finally we have Virgo ruling over the 10th house. This can give you a little bit more insight on some of your motivations in life. So like for example, your 10th house being in Virgo, you may have a career that is ruled in service or something revolving communication or writing, being that Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. Understanding each of these angles, both planetary and zodiacal energy that rules over these points, can be extremely insightful on the different things that motivate you in life, some of the different influences that you may have had that you weren't privy to prior to doing this chart interpretation. The thing that you want to look out for is stelliums. All a stellium is when 3 or more planets exist in a certain sign or a certain house. There's extremely concentrated energy here, and you want to understand further how that is manifesting in your life. I have a 4th house stellium, which means I have a large concentration on my family life, a large concentration on ancestry, privacy, and all of the things that the 4th house rules over. But you can also have a stellium by sign. Say that you have maybe 4 planets in Aquarius. You're going to be somebody that is super fixated on like humanitarian energy, somebody that's quite unconventional, thinks outside of the box, and takes on a lot of those Aquarian characteristics, even if you don't have an Aquarius sun. If you have a stellium, leave a comment below. When you're doing a chart interpretation, you want to check every single planet by seeing what sign it's in, what archetypes it takes on by being in that sign. So, for example, if you have a Libra Mercury is going to be somebody that doesn't want to, tip off anybody, someone that's going to be very careful with the words that they choose in order to make sure they're coming off as tactful, as respectful. That has a Taurus moon, that's going to be someone that is extremely comfort focused, maybe a little closed off sometimes and not very open with their words, but they feel their feelings. Someone with a Cancer Mars will probably be a little bit more lax, someone who not necessarily is lazy, but isn't going to be a very push it to the limit Corbin Blue type of gal. It's gonna be someone that, hey, moving with the water, just letting things flow and not really forcing anything, maybe the way that somebody who has an Aries or a Scorpio Mars would. Next up, you want to see what areas of life or which house these planets are occurring in. When you have Mercury in the 11th house, this is going to be somebody that's a very natural socialite, someone that is known to be, a social butterfly, someone who can speak in public rather easily. you want to see what other energies these placements are also being affected by looking at the aspects. So, for example, Moon trine Venus, maybe you're known as somebody who's extremely comforting, someone who is a reliable friend and ensures that the people around them are feeling comfortable, feeling accepted as if they belong in the space that they're in. And you just have a natural nurturing sense to you. One thing that you should keep in mind when it comes to aspects is an orb. An orb just represents the distance in between the placements that are having an aspect to one another. So say, for example, you have a Virgo sun and a Taurus moon, as you can see here in this example. Now, the Virgo sun exists at 29 degrees and the Taurus moon exists at 1 degree. It means that the sun is almost out of Virgo. The moon just moved into Taurus. They aren't making an actual angle to one another to truly have a trine's influence of 120 degrees onto one another. An aspect is only truly applicable to the native of a birth chart if it exists in about 8 degrees or less is the rule of thumb. So if you have a Leo Mars at 17 degrees and you have a Aries moon at 13 degrees, that will apply more than a Gemini sun at 1 degree and then a Gemini Mercury at 17 degrees. They exist in the same exact sign doesn't mean that it's going to be as applicable because of the distance in between those two planetary bodies. AstroSeek also provides amazing info as a starting point. I hope that this helped. I wanted to thank you guys so much for following along with this video. I hope you guys learned something new. Most importantly, I hope that this motivates you to utilize astrology as a tool for self-transformation. I definitely have in my lifetime, and I also used it as a way to connect with my peers, my family, everybody around me, and it's just a really great thing to have in your arsenal. I hope that you're leaving this video with lifted spirits and a newfound confidence in yourself to learn even more about yourself, because at the end of the day, self-awareness is the most powerful tool when it comes to increasing your self-confidence. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one.